Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing great. Sorry for not posting in a really long time. I've just been really busy. But in this video, I want to talk about the new iPad Pro with the M1 chip that Apple announced a couple of weeks ago. So the M1 chip is the same chip that Apple uses in its updated MacBooks that Apple announced at the end of 2020. In this video, I want to give you guys my thoughts on the new iPad Pro with the M1 chip. It's not going to be a full-blown review, so don't substitute it for one. But either way, let's get right to it. Alright, first things first. Let's just get the pricing and the specs out of the way. So if you go to the Apple website over here, you do see that the iPad Pro with the M1 chip is available for orders. So you can choose between the 11-inch or the 12.9-inch. The 11-inch is going to start at $800 for the 128GB variant and go all the way up to $1,900 for the 2TB variant. And the 12.9-inch, on the other hand, is going to start at $1,100 for the 128GB variant, going all the way to $2,200 for the 2TB variant. At that point, you'll just be crossing MacBook territory. And on top of this, you do have the option of adding accessories to the iPad, like the Apple Pencil and the keyboard. So the Apple Pencil is going to cost you approximately $130, depending on where you get it from. And the keyboard, it depends on whether you get the 11-inch version or the 12.9-inch version. So the 11-inch version keyboard is going to cost you approximately $300, when the 12.9-inch version Magic Keyboard is going to run you approximately $350. So altogether, if you add up the prices of all of these different things, it is going to cost you a ton of money. Alright, so next I just want to talk about a couple more additional specs that the new 2021 iPad Pro with the M1 chip has. So this new iPad is going to be the first iPad to introduce 5G support. And on top of that, this new iPad is also going to have a different camera system, or at least a slightly different camera system. And I also want to mention that this new iPad Pro with the M1 chip has Thunderbolt support, which allows you to hook up Pro XDR displays and whatnot to the iPad. So you do have that option if you choose to do so. Alright, so next let's talk about the M1 chip. As most of you guys are probably already aware, the M1 chip on the MacBook Pros and the MacBook Airs that Apple announced at the end of 2020 is incredibly great. When it comes to performance, the new MacBooks just kill it when compared to the Intel counterparts. You can open up a bunch of apps all at the same time and the MacBook will have absolutely no issue in performing to its utmost capability. And when it comes to battery life, it is incredibly great. You can get up to 24 hours of use using the MacBook Pro, or approximately 17 hours of use using the MacBook Air on the M1 chip. And not to mention that these MacBooks have macOS, which makes the MacBooks absolutely blazing fast when it comes to performance, coupled with the M1 chip. But now we're talking about the M1 chip in the iPad Pros. And this is where things start to get a little bit more limiting. So don't get me wrong, with the M1 chip on the iPad Pro, the performance will be blazing fast, just like the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air. It'll be able to open up apps really fast, it'll be able to charge your device really fast, but it's limiting because of the OS, because of iPad OS versus Mac OS. For starters, iPad OS is very similar to iOS that the iPhone uses. So that means that it's going to be very limited in terms of multitasking. Of course, you can still multitask on the iPad by opening up two apps at the same time, but it's just not at the same level as you would be able to do it on the MacBook with macOS. It's just much more seamless on macOS. So for example, using certain apps on the MacBook is just much more intuitive as opposed to using them on the iPad. So for example, like web browsers like Firefox or Google Chrome or Safari is just much easier to use on macOS as opposed to iPad OS. And another example of this is using video editing software. Of course, you can still edit on iMovie or Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro using your iPad because there's probably web apps for it. But using it on the MacBook is just so much more simpler and seamless. So that's one thing. But the new iPad Pro with the M1 chip is also limited in terms of pricing because the pricing on these new iPads is extremely high. So for example, the 12.9 iPad Pro starts at $1,100, which is an incredibly high price point for 128GB of storage. But the MacBooks will cost you significantly less money with 256GB of storage. And not to mention that you're also going to need other accessories with the iPad Pro, like the Apple Pencil or the Magic Keyboard. Accessories that are not required for the MacBook. So I want to end this video off by saying that it's true that the iPad Pro with the M1 chip has a lot of promising features, like 5G support, incredibly great battery life, incredibly great performance, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that the iPad Pro with the M1 chip is exactly what it is. It's just an iPad. Either way, thank you guys for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate it, and I will be putting the links to the iPad in the description of this video so you guys can check it out there. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.